But you're like a mouse trying to be an elephant.
Simon Cowell, the toughest judge on television, with his stern face and black t-shirt, sent shivers down spines worldwide whenever he spoke. From that commanding presence, he built a global television empire, living in $1 million beachfront mansion and amassing a fortune of $600 million, complete with a one-of-a-kind soundproof garage for his luxury cars. But his path wasn't paved with roses at 30 years old. He went bankrupt, flat broke, branded a failure by his own family, and that wasn't all. A scandalous love affair rocked Britain when he was accused of fathering the son of his close friend's wife, nearly destroying everything. So what turned his fall into a triumph? How did a man shunned by the public still shape the dreams of millions? Don't miss this video to uncover the secrets behind Simon Cowell's legacy. He could spend $25 million on a Malibu beachfront mansion, but once slept on a friend's sofa with nowhere else to go. He could sit in the judge's chair on global television shows, but was called a failure at 30 years old. So what took a shy, uneducated boy from a quiet English village and turned him into the Simon Cowell we know today? Simon Philip Cowell was born on October 7, 1959, in the working-class Lambeth district of London. He grew up in an unremarkable family. His father, Eric, juggled multiple jobs to keep the household afloat, while his mother, a former ballet dancer, tried to maintain an air of grace amid their struggles. When Simon was 7, the family moved to Elstree, a peaceful village about an hour's drive from London. It seemed like an escape from the city's grit, but behind the brick homes and tidy lawns were years that weren't so easy. Simon wasn't a star student. He felt out of place at school. Teachers didn't get him, classmates teased him, and in a crowded family, young Simon struggled to find his place. Once, after being sent out of class for not doing his homework, he sat alone in the empty schoolyard for hours, silent. No one came looking. As a teenager, Simon took odd jobs cleaning floors, delivering packages, selling trinkets on the street. He once said, "I had no plan at all. I just knew I couldn't live like that forever." While his friends went off to college or landed steady jobs, Simon was still behind the counter at a fast food joint, wiping sweat and hearing people call him a loser. But he didn't give up. The low point came one night when he was 17. With no home to return to, Simon crashed on an old sofa at a friend's place, hungry, cold, with just a thin blanket draped over him. But that night, in the stillness, he made a quiet vow to himself one day: "They'll have to know my name." And sure enough, a few years later, that dream started to flicker, though no one could have guessed his first big break would come from a job nobody else wanted. At 30 years old, Simon Cowell was broke, bankrupt, and forced to move back in with his parents. A few years later, the same executives who once called him short-sighted were lining up for a call from his office. So what happened between that fall and the day he took control of the global entertainment industry? In the late 1970s, Simon landed a small job in the mailroom at EMI Music Publishing, where his father worked. The tasks were dull, but he paid close attention to every letter, every meeting, every demo that came through. He learned in silence not about music itself, but about how the market worked, who held power, and who decided which stars would shine. After a few years of going unnoticed, Simon quietly quit. He returned to Elstree, jobless, and faced a chorus of mockery, but instead of giving up, he started over. In 1983, at 24 years old, Simon and a partner launched Fanfare Records, just a tiny office, no sign, no big budget. He bet on artists no one believed in, like Sunita, a young black singer then unknown. Then, in 1986, her song So Macho became a surprise hit, climbing the charts. Simon Cowell's name started appearing in British papers. But that first success didn't last. In 1989, Fanfare went under. Simon lost everything. At 30, he moved back in with his parents, a fall that made him question himself. His friends were moving forward, while he was back at square one. Yet, just a few years later, an old melancholic song changed his life and opened the door to his first million. In 1995, Simon joined BMG as an A&R consultant, scouting and developing artists. No longer impulsive or starry-eyed, he took a steady approach, finding simple songs that hit people's hearts. he decided to re-release Unchained Melody, an old classic performed by Robson and Jerome. No one expected much, but the song shot to #1 in the UK charts for 7 weeks, selling over 1 million copies, a rare feat at the time. That was the first time Simon made serious money, over £1 million in just a few months. More importantly, it was the moment he knew he was back, not as a lucky fluke, but as a producer who understood the market, knew how to pick the right talent and the right moment. From a small room in his parents' house, Simon now had options. But he didn't just want money. He wanted to reshape the entire entertainment industry his way. The question is, who would bet on a guy fresh off bankruptcy, only to watch him build one of the biggest television empires on the planet a few years later? From an old love song that earned him his first $1 million, Simon Cowell realized music wasn't just for listening, it could change destinies. And when he got his real shot, he didn't just come back, he built an empire that the entire entertainment industry had to reckon with. The first show that brought Simon Cowell to millions wasn't anything glamorous. In 2001, he took a judge's seat on Pop Idol in the UK, and his blunt, icy critiques became his trademark, leaving audiences both outraged and glued to their screens. By 2002, Simon brought the format to America with American Idol, and within a few seasons, it became a national phenomenon. In his simple black t-shirt and crisp British accent, Simon earned $33 million per season from the show alone. Next came The X Factor in 2004 and America's Got Talent in 2006. Both formats spread to over 70 countries, launching stars like One Direction, Leona Lewis, and Susan Boyle. From there, Simon's wealth skyrocketed. Today, his annual income from television shows, production, digital music, and investments in his company Psycho ranges between $50 and $100 million, with an estimated $45 million per season from America's Got Talent alone. His total net worth as of 2025 has hit $600 million. From a man once called incompetent, Simon is now the one who redefined global reality television with sharp instincts, calculated strategies, and unmatched grit. And at the peak of his career, Simon didn't chase the spotlight, he chose quiet. Private places where a man once scrutinized by the world could close the door and own his space. Simon Cowell's properties aren't the lavish castles or towering penthouses you'd expect in Hollywood. Instead, they reflect his personality: direct, private, and quietly powerful. In London's upscale Holland Park, Simon owns a historic villa worth over $20 million. From the outside, it's understated dark brick walls, black iron gates, and thick hedges like a curtain. Inside, it's a different world. Custom Italian furnishings, a grand Edwardian-style living room with soaring ceilings, and a walnut-paneled library line the walls where Simon spends hours reading print newspapers and listening to unreleased recordings. In the U.S., Simon once lived in a $25 million Beverly Hills mansion in the exclusive Trousdale Estates, where only a few dozen homes stand, all guarded round the clock. The house boasts a private recording studio, a glass-walled garage showcasing his luxury cars like a movie set, and a small home theater with just 6 imported leather seats where he and his son Eric watch cartoons every Saturday night. But the property considered Simon's second heart is his Malibu home, facing the Pacific Ocean, valued at about $24 million. Its entire front is floor-to-ceiling reinforced glass, letting natural light pour in all day. The interior, in shades of gray and white, features a single oil painting in the living room, a man walking through fog. This was where Simon recovered after a 2020 electric bike accident that left doctors warning he might never walk again. For months, he stayed out of the public eye, surrounded only by the ocean, his son, and quiet reflection. Simon Cowell doesn't live in ancient castles or mansions with bell towers. What he invests in most are the gleaming metal machines sitting quietly in his garage. To many, Simon's garage is like $1 million showroom of supercars. But to him, each car marks a chapter of his life, not just for its price, but for the personal moments they represent. His Bugatti Veyron, black and silver, worth about $2.1 million, symbolizes the peak of American Idol. After the show hit over 30 million viewers per episode and secured global brand deals, Simon treated himself to one of the world's fastest cars at the time. He rarely drives it. It sits in the glass garage at his Beverly Hills mansion. To him, the car doesn't need to move. It's there to remind him none of this came easy. Next to the Veyron is a Rolls-Royce Phantom, worth about $460,000, with ivory interiors and a starlit LED ceiling. It's not for events. It's the car Simon uses to take his mother to dinner or pick up Lauren and Eric for birthdays. A quiet, smooth space where luxury doesn't need to shout. The Ferrari 458 Italia, around $300,000, was a gift to himself at 50 years old, a milestone when he was expanding Psycho and preparing to become a father. Deep red, convertible, with black and red leather interiors. Its roaring engine echoes along Malibu's coast at 10 at night. For Simon, it's the car to be heard when I don't want to say a word. He also owns a Bentley Continental GT Speed, about $290,000, a proper British gentleman's car, and a Bentley Flying Spur Mulliner, nearly $345,000, reserved for private meetings or charity events. Hand-stitched leather, 4-seat massage system, automatic curtains, no flash, just a sense of silent control. For safety, Simon relies less on bodyguards and more on an armored Range Rover autobiography, worth nearly $500,000 after upgrades. Bulletproof glass, reinforced body, motion detection alerts. It's what he drives when traveling with Lauren and Eric, understated, unintrusive but absolutely secure. Surprisingly, Simon has recently turned to electric vehicles. He's been spotted driving a Tesla Model S Plaid, about $135,000, and testing Elon Musk's new Cybertruck, estimated at $100,000 for the upgraded version. From a man who loved the growl of mechanical engines, he's shifting to silent, smooth rides, much like his inner life after the 2020 accident. From walking home at 17 because he couldn't afford gas, to stepping into cars owned by only a handful worldwide at 65, his journey isn't just about speed, but about choices. He doesn't drive to be seen. He drives to remind himself how far he's come and what he needs to hold on to stay grounded. For Simon, it's never been about how much you own, but how you live when you have it all. Simon Cowell once thrived in the spotlight, where every word could make tomorrow's headlines, but at 65, what he chooses each morning is absolute quiet. Simon starts his day not with a phone or emails, but with a glass of warm lemon water and soft classical music in his Ocean View kitchen. No more 7 a.m. meetings or endless filming schedules. After his 2020 accident, he deliberately scaled back work, focusing on something he hadn't dared consider for decades: slowing down. He's been vegan since 2019, a choice made after multiple hospital visits for stress and digestive issues. His daily menu revolves around steamed vegetables, nuts, and fruit, carefully prepared by a private chef. Lunch often happens outdoors, at a long wooden table overlooking the garden, where his son Eric runs around playing with their dog. In the afternoons, Simon spends an hour walking or doing light exercise in his home gym. No high-tech machines or professional trainers, just a yoga mat, resistance bands, and a jazz playlist he curated back in 2004. He said, "I don't want a fit body to look good on TV. I want to be healthy so I can play with my son for years to come." Simon has a few quirky hobbies. He doesn't collect watches or rare paintings, but old books on media history. His shelves hold volumes from the early 20th century, many yellowed, bought from small European bookstores, at night, when screens are off and lights dim. Simon sits alone in his wooden library, reading slowly as if stepping back to a time before anyone knew the name Cowell. On the most ordinary days, what makes him happiest is simple: driving Eric to school himself. No bodyguards, no cameras, just a dad in a t-shirt and sunglasses, nodding to the school security guard like any other father. From a man who once couldn't dream of a full meal, Simon now lives each day reclaiming pieces of a life he once lost. And with everything in place, the one thing he wants to keep is peace. Behind the sharp-tongued critic on TV, Simon Cowell is a man who raises his son with patience, not power. His family life transformed when his only son, Eric, was born in 2014, named after Simon's father, his greatest support in his youth, holding Eric for the first time. Simon didn't speak, he just cried. Simon isn't one to gush about father-son bonds in the press, But those who've worked with him know he sticks to a schedule to be home for dinner with Eric. No personal assistant for his son, no bodyguards trailing. Simon wants Eric to grow up as a normal kid, something he never had. After his 2020 back injury, the first name Simon called when he woke wasn't the doctor or Lauren, it was Eric. "I can't let him grow up without a dad by his side," he said in a rare interview. That father-son bond changed Simon from a workaholic to a man who puts family first. Beyond family, Simon channels much of his wealth into charity, quietly. He's a longtime supporter of Children in Need, Comic Relief, PETA, RSPCA, and organizations focused on children's and animal rights. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he donated millions to healthcare and struggling artists. No announcements, no press conferences. For him, doing good doesn't need a spotlight. He once said, "I know what it's like to be forgotten, to feel invisible. That's why I don't want any child or animal to go through it again." And so, in a glitzy yet chaotic entertainment world, Simon Cowell, the man once called cold and ruthless, quietly leaves his mark through acts that never make it to air. But even the strongest stumble, and for Simon, the fall didn't just come from the market, it came from the very things he thought he could control. Even giants fall when scandal and pain struck. Could Simon Cowell rise again, or would the empire he built crumble before his eyes? Success launched Simon Cowell to the top of global television. But that same spotlight exposed his darker moments like never before. For years, audiences both admired and feared Simon, the man with the crisp British accent, stern face, and critiques that left contestants in tears on stage. Many called him the meanest judge on TV. Some articles slammed him for making shows cruel, turning young artists into punchlines for ratings. But he never apologized. He simply said, "If you can't handle the truth, you can't handle this world." That was the philosophy he believed in and lived by for nearly 20 years. But it was a personal scandal that truly shook his image. In 2013, the media exploded with news that Simon was in a relationship with Lauren Silverman while she was still married to his closest friend. It wasn't just a rumor, it was confirmed when Lauren's husband filed for divorce. Public backlash poured in. Some vowed to boycott Simon's shows, and British tabloids branded it an unforgivable betrayal. The pressure mounted when Lauren became pregnant with Simon's child, amid the world's clamor. Simon stayed silent. No interviews, no rebuttals. When Eric was born, he said only one thing: "I was wrong. But my son is the best thing I've ever done." The next blow wasn't a scandal, it was his health. In August 2020, Simon suffered a severe accident testing an electric bike in his Malibu yard. He broke his back, underwent emergency surgery, and faced the possibility of never walking again. For months, he vanished from the media. For the first time in his career, Simon Cowell was completely absent. He returned slowly, no longer striding confidently on stage, no longer filming through the night. He adopted a strict vegan diet, committed to daily physical therapy, and spent more time with his son. Those who once called him harsh now admitted they'd never seen Simon Cowell so human. And perhaps that fall taught him how to stand up for the first time as a father, not just a TV mogul. But when the dust settled, the question remained. Simon Cowell, the man once vilified by the world, what will he leave behind when the final spotlight fades? When the stage lights go out, what will the world remember about Simon Cowell? A harsh judge, a reality TV titan, or something deeper? At a time when most in the industry have retired or stepped back, Simon Cowell is still quietly working not to expand his empire, but to give others the chance he once fought for. His shows The X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent have lifted hundreds into the spotlight. From Susan Boyle, a middle-aged woman with a plain appearance who moved entire audiences to tears, to One Direction, a boy band born from Simon's bold backstage gamble. No one believed in them except him. But perhaps Simon's greatest legacy isn't in the shows or the revenue. It's in the people who thought they had no shot given a stage to sing, even just once. He's not just a talent scout, he's someone who hands out the right to dream. Beyond the spotlight, Simon leaves a mark through quiet acts of kindness. He supports children in need, Comic Relief, Make-A-Wish, PETA, RSPCA, and more, from disaster relief to animal rights. No cameras, no plaques, sometimes just a late-night phone call when he knows someone needs help. He also spends time teaching his son Eric about kindness, not through moral lectures, but through how he lives, taking him to visit children's hospitals, turning off the phone at dinner, never bringing work home. For Simon, true success is raising a person, not a brand. Tomorrow, when reality shows fade into history, when no one remembers who won which season, Simon Cowell's name might still linger, not just as a TV mogul, but as a man who broke his back, stirred controversy, was called heartless, yet, in the end, left an undeniable mark. Because ultimately, you're not remembered for how many contracts you signed, but for how many lives you changed.